Well, and there's a couple things, as we wrap this up, the gentleman you talked about stalked the deer for 23 days. He then had to stay there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
For a 3-second shot.
Right.
So 23 days, 6 hours, 3 seconds.
Right.
That's commitment.
Yeah. And you look at it and you go, okay, was it all to see that arrow fly for that 0.5 seconds and enter that giant bull elk and watch him pile up? Was it all for that? And the answer is it can't be all for that. No. It has to be for the process, right? It has to be for this is crazy. No one else would be out here doing this. I've chosen this as being a Misogi of sorts, something that is wildly difficult to do. And I'm going to go against the odds and try to solve this problem. And that's the key, like what they call like a Misogi, which is like if you get a chance to read the book, The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. And he talks about like putting yourself in challenging situations that the challenge is so high that it's a 50-50 chance whether you'll be successful. Now, you don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. There's a 50-50 chance you'll die, because that's just stupid. But there's a 50-50 chance where you're going to have to push as hard as you possibly can to only give yourself a 50-50 chance. And that's where, like, I look at something like that, you go, oh, he just created a Misogi. I'm going to go kill a world-class, absolute giant of an animal, find it, take a year to find him, scout all summer, find this one bull I'm going to go kill, and I'm going to dedicate September to killing him with a bow. Man.
And the first time I heard about a Misogi was Jesse Eisler was talking about it, I think on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had heard about it from Kyle Cover, which was one of his basketball players with the Hawks, where it's a physical activity done one time a year. Yes. That is so stressful. Like you said, it's that 50-50 that you might be successful or you might not be. But It's so intense that you can only do it once a year. Right.
And you want what from other rules that I know Michael talked about in his book is you want it to be something that's novel, where you can't have other people kind of weigh against it. Like if you were about to say, I'm going to bench press, you're like, yeah, but you know what a good bench press is like. And so you do something that's novel, where there is no preconceived notion of how difficult it is or not. And then you don't tell a lot of people about it either, because you don't want social pressure, good or bad, to take into any account. So you want to say, like, I'm going to walk to Augusta next week, which is 55 miles that way. Now, most likely I wouldn't do that, but I could do it. And then how it would work is I would just go do it. I'd maybe tell my wife, I'm going to go do this here. I got my phone with me. I'm going to go do it. And do something so audacious, that's so freaking hard, but I'm not going to put it on social media. Hey, go fund me. And while I walk to Augusta, and shoot me DMs all day and cheer me on, because that's not what it's about. It's about saying, I've decided to do this thing, this challenge, and it's me and the guy in the mirror doing this. And if I fail, only I know I fail, and I failed myself. But if I succeed, only I know I succeed. And is only me knowing I succeed worth it? Or do I have to call my shot out there and then go, I got to do this because my X number of followers will be disheartened if I don't do this thing, and I get to post about it and all this other. So like, no, man, if I can't walk to Augusta, I just call a cab and come home and be disgusted with myself that I quit and think about how I could be better. And that's
is it a prerequisite that is it a prerequisite that you can only do this once a year? Because I feel like if you fail, you've got to sit with that failure for the whole year without having to repeat yourself. And that's part of the challenge too.
That's a part of the challenge too. Yeah, that's why you don't do it a whole lot. And if it's a true Misogi, it's going to be so stressful to the body, you can't do them all the time. Like you're going to have to mentally, physically, emotionally recover from it, because it should be hard. Like I think what Michael Easter was talking about, one guy he knew, they had an 80-pound rock, and 3 or 4 men carried that rock 5 kilometers underwater down the beach in like 10 feet of water. So they would literally go underwater and grab the rock and run, and then drop it and go up, and the next guy would grab it, and they would just relay a rock 5 kilometers underwater a giant freaking rock. Like, the best part about you, like, novel? Yeah, who would think of that? That's absolutely idiocy. But you're like, hey, there's a chance to die doing that. There's a chance to get eaten by a shark or jellyfish or a million other things that could happen to you. They had a rescue diver there to make sure no one died. But part of it was like, hey, we're us 3 or 4 dudes, we're going to go do this. And it's absolutely ridiculous to do this, but that's why we're doing it. And it might take us 8 hours to do this. And we're not going to stop until we're done doing it. And there's part of me that says, that's a coming of age. There's a transition into a different state of being. And that's part of what the world's missing right now.
I think you are a part of one of these when Brandon Lilly rode 100,000 meters at
his birthday. Yeah.
At headquarters.
Yeah. That was an interesting story. So we were hanging out at, where were we? It was New Year's Day. I remember him talking about some of his clients, and he was making goals for them. And they said something, and Brandon Lilly, 2-time world champion powerlifter, and they had him do something. They go, well, it's easy for you to say, Brandon, all your goals are strength related and you're strong. And he's like, oh yeah. He was like, well, I'm going to freaking row a half marathon. And he literally just got on the rower and just did it. It was like an hour and a half of rowing. And I mean, he just fell on the ground and about died, and had the whole diet. He didn't train for it, just literally went from powerlifting to doing that. And then the next day he did it again. And then the next day he did it again. And he told me, he's like, yeah, and I'm going to do a full marathon on the 7th day. And just to prove a point to himself. And there was 3 hours into it. I mean, he was like, the whole thing, had a full mental breakdown, emotional breakdown, the whole deal, crying, calling his wife, and he was 3.5 hours on a rower. You got to think this was like a 280-pound man with, a cumulative like 15, 18 knee surgeries at the time. And then, so we were at SHOT Show, we're all hanging out, and he's like, hey, what I'm going to do for my birthday this year, I'm going to row 100,000 meters instead of like whatever that was before, how many ever meters it was. It was like 2.5 marathons. And I was like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to do it at my birthday, and I want to do it down at Sorinex. So he got in at 5 a.m. He stayed here, got up at 5 a.m. and rode for like 11 hours and 58 minutes. And he made it right under 12 hours. And then we had rowers set up beside him, and like I'd go out and row 10,000 meters with him. Someone else we just rotated out guys that rode with him. But that son of a gun rode for 12 straight hours.
And for people that have not been on a rowing machine,
it's insane.
12 hours on a rowing machine, no thank you.
Oh, I mean, I was on for maybe an hour, like I did my 10,000, which was by far the furthest I've ever gone. And it was like, all right, we're out of here. Like, this is enough, But we set up, we were like, what movie? We set up all of his favorite movies on the screen, and he just rode all day long. And it was like, I mean, what a Misogi right there. Like, yeah, I think he ended up pulling in like $25,000 like donations that he gave to Camp Southern Ground. So it's cool.
Yeah. I mean,
Bert, where can people find you on the internet, social media, get in contact with you?
Yep. Bert Sorin, BertSorin on Instagram. Pretty much the one I'm most active on. Sorinex.com, Sorinex on Instagram, Sorinex Outdoors on Instagram. I'm on there a decent amount, and Sorinex Squattober if you want to do something super fun coming up this October. World's largest squat party. It's 30 days, kind of a Misogi in itself. Do something that's really freaking hard for 30 days and it changes your life. So if you want to get on that, it could be your own Misogi. 50-50 chance, actually less than a 50 chance you'll actually finish. And it's not because you physically can't, just most people won't. And but the people who do get to the other end of it are usually well, no, not usually. They're always impressed about what they've been able to accomplish. And almost everyone comes out with a new PR, and it's incredible to see how the body's changed. So if you want a real challenge, you want your own Misogi, hit Sorinex Squattober on IG and do the programming, free programming all month by Aaron Osmus. And that's that.
When do you have the date set for the next Summer Strong? For those that might be,
I think it's May 2021 or maybe 1920, something like that. It's okay. Friday, Saturday, May.
Yeah,
but right around the 20th.
Awesome. Yeah, expect to see my ugly mug down there this year.
Yeah. Well, I'll say we'll probably put tickets on sale March-ish, February,
Okay.
something like that.
If you've never been,
We already got a
gotta
couple
go.
good speakers.
Well, Bert, it was great meeting you, man. Thanks for coming
Great
on.
meeting
We
you, Chris.
appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Yes, Bert, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule and
Yes,
everything that you've done for me, my family, and for our profession. I am indebted to you and your family and your crew down there in South Carolina. They do a great job. So
Thank you. That's why we do it, man. Hopefully change lives. People think it's so we could sell steel rectangles, but the joke is that is not it at all.
What do you got, Chris?
We are the Athlete Hackers. My name's Chris Stray. Check us out on Apple, Google, Breaker, Anchor, YouTube. Did I say YouTube already? We've
No.
got more guests coming
Spotify.
up and some software where you can access our content. Thanks for tuning in today.
Thanks, guys.
All my best. God bless and peace.
Peace.
See you, brother.
That'll be good.